Hey guys, this is Curtis, and this week's interview is going to be with, and he's got a story that took place. Where was it?
It was in Mollala River corridor uh, in Oregon.
Oregon. Okay, well, go ahead and tell your story.
Yeah, it's probably about mid 90s, and I had some friends of ours that were camping. We called this place the Bigfoot Camp because that's where we were always seeing Bigfoot at, and it used to have a ranger station, but the ranger station was torn down. It was just a foundation, and but it was a big area out there where we camped at. And so anyway, friends of mine, they were both staying there. They were fishing, and they caught two salmon. And the one friend had it salmon on ice in his truck, and he was saying that during the night that something was coming around and shaking his truck, and he figured, it was probably Bigfoot trying to get in it. And my ex-wife and my daughter and I, we came up there, or my daughter wasn't there with us, just us. We came up there um, during the day, and it was probably around 4 o'clock when we got there. And we sat around the campfire, visit with them, and um, I can do a Bigfoot scream, and I've done it uh, with a group that I've been with then. And so I went over by the tree, and it was a tree that kind of echoed out through the woods. And so I screamed, and way up in the top of the mountains, um, I had one scream back, and it screamed, and I screamed, and it probably went on for about 5 minutes, and it just quieted down. So I went back over by the campfire and sat back over there, and we talked, and it was about 10, 15 minutes later, and I came back to the tree, and I um, screamed again, and I got it to scream back, but it was lower down, like it kind of moved down lower, and we kind of screaming back and forth at each other, and this went on for another 5 minutes, and then it just was quiet, nothing. So I went back, sat around the campfire for about another 10, 15 minutes, and uh, came back over to the tree and did some more screams. But that time it was way down low, it was across the road, and it sounded real low then, and but then he just quit screaming. So then again, I went over the third time, sat down by the campfire, talked for a little bit, and I went back over to the tree and started screaming then, and I didn't get no screams back, didn't get no response, and so I was about ready to go over and sit down when I heard it sound like a freight train coming through the woods. I mean, it was like trees getting knocked over, and it wasn't trees, but that's just what it sounded like. Branches breaking. I mean, it was flying through there. There was like a little ravine down through there, and so it come up the ravine. When it came up, it looked right at me like it just knew I was the one that was screaming. It looked right at me, and I looked at it, and I can tell you that he had red eyes because we looked at each other. Really can't give much of a description of the face. I know he was over 8 foot tall, maybe 9 foot. It's kind of like a reddish brown color, and it was on 2 feet. But I think I could not give a description of the way he looked because the eyes. I mean, he just looked like he wanted to rip me from top to bottom. And I took off running, and my truck was a ways over this way, and so I had my head turned around watching him while I was running, and I turned to go toward my truck, and so the thing had to turn in the direction I was going, but he could not turn like I did whenever I was running. He had to stop and then turn. And so I, so I thought, and I was told later on by somebody, they said that's typical primate. Primate cannot turn while they're running. They have to stop and then turn.
When you were calling to this creature, and it was up on the mountain, and you said it would. You waited a little bit and called again. It was lower, so it was actually coming toward your location, coming down the mountain,
Yes.
coming lower. What time of day would you say this was?
Well, we got there probably about 4 o'clock. I would say this was probably about 6 o'clock, just before it got dark.
Okay. What do you suppose caused the eye shine? Could it be the light from the campfire, or do you think this?
No, I don't know. Just his eyes just look red. His eyes look evil.
Okay. And how far away would you say he was?
I would say from me to that, I would say probably about 10, 15 feet away.
Really?
Yeah, he was that close.
Did you smell anything?
I didn't smell nothing. Um, uh, it just scared me half to death. I mean,
Yeah.
I thought I was just going to be ripped to pieces.
Wow.
That's just the way he looked.
And so while you were running, you were looking back over your shoulder, and you said this thing couldn't turn while it was moving. It actually had to stop and then position itself and take off running again.
Right. And I think that's the only thing that saved me from it not catching up with me. And then a friend of mine that was there, he had a 44 Magnum, and he shot about 6 times over its head. And that's what I heard whenever I was running. I heard boom, 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 boom. And didn't see him shoot, because I was looking more toward my truck, heading toward it. I just heard the shots, and that's what he said. He said it. He said that he shot 6 times over its head, and before it turned around and ran back into the woods. He said it just about ran over top of him, so it was like probably only about a foot away from him before it would have ran over top of him.
Wow.
And, I've had people say, whenever I've told the story, they say, well, it was probably an elk, but I just don't think an elk would do that. I don't think it would got that close to a gun going off that many times.
Another thing, you've seen elk before.
Yeah.
And like with my experience, I've seen bear before, and what I saw was no bear, and what you saw, you can safely say was not an elk, because like you said, how far away were you?
Yeah, I was only like 10, 15 feet away, and it was on 2 feet.
Yeah, that's
stand straight up, and the elk don't stand 9 feet up in the air.
No, unless you're Bo Weekle moose, you're not standing on 2 hind legs like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what else do you have anything you want to add to this? He's lived in Oregon for quite a while. He's in Texas now. And didn't you live in Washington for a while as well?
No, I never lived in Washington.
Okay.
I've gone up there one time and visited, but I was with we had like a little small group that we went out with, and we looked for them, and I used to call, and I get very good calls. And according to the one guy that I know, Ori, that I went out with, he had taken my calls and he's brought them up to universities and gotten the calls back, and he had said that they've been one of the best calls, to get a response, and a lot of universities have liked them. And according to what he said was that he had put my calls. I've got a what do you call it? Um, what do you call that? Like if you get a song, you write a song, and then you got to get it not notarized, but you got to get it
Authenticated? Authenticated? Or
no, it's a patent.
patent? Okay.
He's got a he said he put a patent on my calls.
Wow. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and I've been doing this. I've been doing this for a long time, and so I got many more stories.
Well, good. I appreciate you spending the time with us today, just telling this story. And trust me, I know where you live. So we'll be doing this again, okay?
All right.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Uh-huh.